everyone and welcome back to IMO Reviews. There's not an awful lot going on in the cinema right now, so I decided I'm going to use this time wisely to deepen my knowledge and dive into some of those movies that I probably should have seen by now, but just simply haven't. And so we randomly as hell start with Studio Ghibli's Howl's Moving Castle. How do I give a spoiler-free synopsis of this movie? I'll do my best. After being cursed by the Witch of the Wastes, Sophie seeks out the help of a wizard called Howl, who travels the land in a bizarre, mechanised moving castle. So jumping straight into what I liked about Howl's Moving Castle, I thought this movie was stunning. Scene after scene after scene was just endlessly impressive and beautiful to behold. The artistry is not only breathtaking, but it feels lived in and like there's a real depth to this universe. And frankly, it's just pleasant as hell to experience. This movie has a very tranquil and peaceful mood and tone to it, and it absolutely bleeds out the screen. I almost felt like the film was giving me a back rub sometimes. It's very soothing and quite relaxing. It's very appreciative of nature and human beings and just how the world works. It's a very positive, feel-good film in many aspects. I also thought the characters were really interesting. They're a little bit unusual. They don't necessarily act how you might expect them to react to the scenarios they find themselves in, but that's kind of what made it interesting to me. It kept me on my toes. I felt invested in wanting to understand them and understand their feelings. And I think the film does a great job of making that very easily accessible to the audience without being lazy or simplistic. No, these characters really do have quite deep emotions and conflicting emotions, and they're not entirely sure how they feel about things themselves. I really enjoyed that aspect of the writing. It made the characters feel more real and relatable to me. It has some really positive and impactful messaging about several subjects, but ultimately the film just wants you to be nice. Be nice to each other, take care of each other. Don't start fights for the sake of it or for your own benefit and greed. I'm always going to be positive about a movie that really does hit home something positive that the audience can take home with them and learn from. I love the imagination that the film has on offer as well. The Scarecrow is arguably my favourite character in the film. That is until his resolution comes about. Won't go into it because it's a little bit spoilery and some of you may want to watch this. I, for one, found his resolution to be a little bit lackluster. But that being said, I can't help but praise the writing that they managed to make a mute Scarecrow fascinatingly charming and likeable. The character of Calcifer was also great and equally had some really interesting story attached to him and his connection to the character of Howl. The magic and the curses discussed in the film are at a fairly surface level, with several other ideas pitted in the background that you can notice. But I liked that. It made it intriguing to me. It made me want to dive deeper and learn more. It made the world feel like a fleshed out place that you could physically visit, and actually I wouldn't mind doing so. Just as long as I can have some guarantee that I'm not going to get cursed. I also thought the music was just really nice, and it adds to that tranquility that I mentioned earlier, and the film is pitted with humour throughout that did get a few chuckles out of me. But despite the highest praise that I have given it, I sadly do have one or two very small issues with Howl's Moving Castle. Eek! I know, sorry. And the big one for me, it's a little bit spoilerish, so again I'm going to tiptoe carefully. But Sophie's curse makes no sense whatsoever. The rules are not that deeply established, and yet it still feels flimsy and like it changes its own mind consistently throughout the film. It doesn't seem to know which way it wants to go with it, whether it wants to go the long haul or if it wants to cut some corners, and it does feel a bit messy. Had they just tightened that up and made it a bit more coherent, I wouldn't be complaining. I also mentioned already the slightly disappointing resolution of the Scarecrow, and on that note, the ending is a little bit, I don't want to say flat because that feels harsh, but I certainly can't say that it's big, epic, or triumphant either. It just kind of felt like, okay, that's the ending. See ya. And personally, the film felt way bigger than that to me. That yes, when it did end, it strangely felt a little bit abrupt to me. So I'm going to give Howl's Moving Castle a 9 out of 10. This is an endlessly pleasant an impactful watch with a lot of really positive messaging that probably matters more now than it did when the film originally came out. The animation is stunning, as is the scenery and design of this universe and its characters, with a real sense of awe and intrigue that makes you want to dive deeper in. I just found this film to be peaceful and pleasant, and I keep saying the word pleasant, and I think that is the word that comes to mind when I think of this film. It was a really nice watch. It put me in a good mood, it left me feeling positive, and I would definitely recommend checking this one out if you haven't already. Thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and please do hit the comments section. Have you seen Howl's Moving Castle? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, if you haven't had enough of this pretty little face, you can always click on these suggested videos here and get yourself lost in an IMO wormhole. But if not, take care, and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.